welcome back again to the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with a Group 2 race driving at the Blue Moon Bay Infield track, driving obviously the Super GT cars, and I'm driving the Nissan for the first ever time. I've never driven this car before in the Group 2 class, so this was a learning curve, and we had a little bit of spare time around lunchtime, so we jumped on, did a qualifying lap very quickly. It wasn't the best, obviously you can see there we're only P4 on the grid, but I didn't really want to worry too much about the qualifying position. I just wanted to jump on, get some footage and do a race, my first ever race in this car, and also my first race of the day. So what we're going to do is we're going to play it very safe. You're going to see it now, and I think it's something that I wanted to give out this little bit of advice, because I see a lot of people probably on their first race of the day. You know, they always say, "Oh, it's my first race of the day." You know, sometimes in the lobbies as well, and they make mistakes. And I think it's because people drive a little bit too aggressive on the first of a race. Because you know, in your first race of the day, I think it's the most important race you're going to do in that whole day, because it is a race that you are more than likely going to lose the most DR on. You know, if you're not got the consistency, you've not got the speed, and you know, you're more likely to make mistakes in that first race, and people do tend to drive too aggressive with them circumstances. So I just wanted to get this video out to give some advice, because on my first race normally what I do is do something very similar to what I'm doing here now. You can see there this was at around lunchtime, and we don't know the strategy that needs to be run for this race, so I'm going to play it very safe. You can see me short shifting. Well, obviously in 6th gear there's no gear after this, so we're revving this gear out pretty much maximum. I'm not going to worry about my fuel mixture on that right hand side, because that's going to overcomplicate things. All I want to worry about now is hitting my braking points, hitting the lines I need to do for the corners, and just short shift it. You can see pretty much all the way through the gears I'm just short shifting around the mid-range point, and just trying to save a bit of fuel that way. This, not only will it save a bit of your tyre wear, it'll give you better grip obviously towards the end of the stint, it'll also save you fuel, and you won't be driving as aggressively, so in general you're going to drive smoother and you'll find it easier to hit your braking points. And I just think it's really important to do that. You know, you can see even also I'm trying to stay, I'm not worrying about getting involved with this battle up ahead. What I'm trying to do is use his slipstream just to save some fuel by short shifting. I'm not worried about, you know, I could have revved third gear out fully then, and then, you know, at this corner I made a little error. You can see me skimmed the wall. That corner was one corner that was causing me a little bit of an issue on my first run in this Nissan. However, what I'm going to do is after this video we're going to show you my last run of the day. We ended up winning the last 3 races I did in the day, and we really got our speed fully up to speed. You're going to see that a big difference in how we drive. I did change the car to the Honda NSX. It did suit the way I wanted to drive when I'm driving aggressively a little bit more, so I did it in that car, and you're going to see a lot difference in the way I attack the corners, the way I'm driving it, and everything in general. So we'll do that at the end. I'm not going to show you the whole race, I'm just going to split it up into sections so you can just see what I'm talking about. So anyway, getting back to this race, you can see there we're not lapping particularly fast at this stage. You know, lap 2 we had that error on, and probably would have, you know, been a low 2 or a 1 minute 2, and that's not very fast. You know, by the end of the night that would have been nowhere near fast enough. But for the first, you know, around lunchtime it's not too bad, because people have not been on it all day, and in general not everyone's going to be fully up to speed. So what I wanted to do here is just use this slipstream, as you can see there. I'm not going to get involved with any fights really. I don't want to be like battling away too much. Also, if an overtaking opportunity comes about, I am more likely going to take it, because I'm a racer, right? I do go for opportunities if I see one arise. If I feel there's an opportunity to be taken and it's a safe opportunity, I'll go for it. So you can see there now, we're just holding back. You can see I'm giving the walls a lot of respect on that corner, because I don't want to be getting too close to that wall. I don't want to be spinning out on this corner as well. I'm not pushing right out to the right hand side, you know, using all the track. I'm just giving a lot of space this corner as well. Look how easy I'm taking that corner. You can even see that they pull away a bit from me on that corner, but I'm not worried about that, because they're battling up ahead, so the chances are when they're battling they're going to be losing time. So I wasn't really worried about them too much, you know, pulling away a bit, because I knew I could catch them up if I really wanted to. However, not knowing the strategies that you need to do, and you know, knowing what people are doing in the race, you know, this first race, you've got to just play it fairly safe. You know, a lot of people lose so much. You know, the way you can lose DR now and SR by having one bad race, I think it's so important to take that first race, you know, the learning race I like to call it, the race that is going to tell you what strategy you want to run, when to pit, you know, what is the best way to run your fuel mixtures. That first race you really need to be cautious, and you know, don't risk anything that could destroy your DR. You know, after I lost 26,000 DR in one race, I really had to be quite conservative in my early races. We still have had a couple of bad races. I know 2 of the races at this track, my first 2 races in the Honda, even I've made mistakes, and I do it sometimes. I get in the car, I should have really took it easy in my first few races in the Honda, but I didn't. I thought I was up to speed, I was thinking, yeah, I can do this. I made 2 errors, I made 2 spins, and luckily for me, I managed to get the car back into reasonable positions, I think finishing like 6th and 7th, so I only lost about 800 to 1000 DR. However, you guys would have heard back on a race I did a while ago when I lost 26,000 DR in one race. If that happens again, you can see P3 there had a bit of a moment. I don't know if it was overtaking the car in front or what happened, but somehow lost the rear end on a pretty much flat out corner. I don't understand how that happened, but this is what I'm saying, that's up to P3 now, so we're now in the top 3, and this is my first race, so I was happy at the stage. And one thing I will say is I really do enjoy this Nissan. I enjoy the way it drives, I enjoy the way it handles. It does definitely take the corners a little bit better than the I feel it takes the corners better than the Tom's, the Lexus car, a bit better. It's a little bit easier to drive, I'd say, but I feel it's lacking a bit of acceleration or something. The top speed seems better than the Honda. I think they could get these BOPs very close. I think what I would personally do with the BOP in the Group 2 class of car is the Honda. I think I would add 1% weight to it just to slow it down on some of the tracks that have, handling tracks, but don't take the power off it. Leave the power as it is. I would leave the Lexus as it is. I wouldn't touch that, but then I would give this Nissan 1% power increase or take 1% weight off of it. And I think with just them 2 changes, you would get them all so close on pretty much every track, and they've all got different characteristics in the way they handle. And they're already very close in terms of their BOP. When you consider these cars haven't been out that long, and all 3 cars are fairly close, so they definitely did a good job with the BOP on these Super GTs compared to how different some of the GR3 cars are and the GR4 cars. They've done a very good job in these, and it is great to see. So that's a little BOP talk over it. Anyway, getting back to race, you can see again, I'm not worrying about pushing up to these guys ahead. You can see it in my gear changes. I'm not revving too hard, I'm just changing gear midway there. You see I could have extended that gear in 3rd all the way up and pushed really hard out this corner. I'm just taking it nice and easy, short shifting again into 5th gear, and then again we're going to short shift into 6th gear. I'm not worried about them because I can see them battling, so if they're battling, the chances are they're going to slow down eventually, and I'll catch them back up. So there's no point me wasting fuel on my first ever go on the game. I think if this was a later run, as you can see, they're fighting for the position now through this corner, and look how much I've caught up straight away because they're fighting. I think if this was maybe the last race of the night, I would have been all over that and trying to get involved with that, because I would have known the strategy I was on. I would have known what I needed to do, and I would have felt I could have got past them because I know I would have had more speed than them at this stage. So I would have tried to get past them and then pull out a gap. So that's okay if you're used to the track, you feel like you can do that, you feel confident pushing all the way around every lap. But on my first race, I don't always feel that confident. You need to just be a bit patient, I think, in your approach to racing. And this is all where racecraft comes in. This is why F1 drivers have a practice session 1, practice session 2, then a qualifying, then a race. Because if you just put all them drivers straight into a race on the track without any laps, they would make mistakes and they'd have issues, So that's why one thing about myself as well, I do require quite a bit of practice before I get up to speed. As you can see there, we've got a massive slipstream on the guy in P2 as he made an error. So I faked to move down the right because in case he tried to block me, got myself on the left hand side. We're going to squeeze him up against that wall because I want to give him as little room as possible to turn in on me. And then I get on the power, and again he has to back out of that, and we've got ourselves into P2 already. So without even pushing and without even driving anywhere near as fast as what I really could have been, we're up to P2 from P4 because one driver's made a mistake and we've done a really nice overtake. I did enjoy that overtake. It was a fun move to make. I enjoyed the way I followed him going. I pretended to go down the right hand side, so he kind of went to block that way, and then I just scooted off down the left and did the undercut into the corner, because that's the inside line on that corner really is the fastest way through that corner. So for me to get the overtake done on there, it was the most sensible approach. So now we're behind the guy in P1. We don't know what strategy he's on, but I'm going to pit dead on midway. You can see I could have probably extended to lap 10 here. We've got one lap of fuel pretty much as we go into pits. I could have reduced the fuel mixture a bit and done some more short shift, and we would have got round to the pits again. So we could have had the fuel to get round for another lap, but I chose to go in there. And you can see we've gone in the pits and only one other driver has got the same amount of fuel as us. So we're in a really good position here now. So we're going to gain a fair bit in the pits. So what I'm going to do is slightly go over that diamond just to give myself a little bit more. Nothing major again. So I'm going to carry on the short shifting, and we're just going to give ourselves just a fraction more than the laps we need from the first in, just in case I feel like driving a little bit harder in the last section, you know, the last 9 laps. But I'm not too worried about trying to push for the win in this race. This race is all about just getting some solid DR points and just getting the consistency so that when we come back to it again, we can drive it faster and push even more. And I think that's the main aim for these races. Is, you know, your first race should always be about not losing DR. If you only gain 10 DR, 10 or 15, that's a positive. And then in the next races, when you're more confident, then push harder. So I think, you know, that is one area where a lot of people tend to be a little bit lacking, is the racecraft in their first races. So I hope this video, you know, giving this advice will help some people out. What we'll do is, obviously, when we get through to the later races, the last race after this that I did, I'm going to show you about, you know, when I'm driving a lot more aggressive. And you can see, as you can see now, P1 and P2 are in the pits. We obviously going to try and make sure we come out ahead of them. So let's have a little look now. Sorry, not P1, we won't come out ahead of P1, but we come out way ahead of P2. And you can see there, our fuel strategy has really worked out. We're a bit closer to P1, and we've got no one behind us. We're 3 seconds ahead of P3. So the strategy I was on that first stint has really worked out, because I didn't get involved with all the, you know, getting close to them, trying to make moves, you know, using all my fuel up. We managed to save more fuel than them, and now we're 2.7, 3 seconds ahead. So I felt reasonably confident now at this stage that I could maintain this P2. I was going to try and stay with this P1 driver, although because he had gone to lap 10, it meant that he could then put more fuel in, so he wouldn't have to do any fuel saving in the last stint. And it's the tactic I did see a lot of people doing. They were obviously trying to save a bit more fuel in that first stint, so then you didn't have to fuel save in the last stint, because of the way the NSX uses its fuel to drive it 100% aggressive. If you drove it aggressively for each 9 set of laps, so your first and 50 seconds in, you wouldn't have enough fuel. You had to do some form of fuel saving in terms of short shifting it or something, just to save you a bit of fuel. So that's why a lot of people were doing that tactic of doing the short, you know, the first stint wasn't going to be too aggressive, the second stint they could go a little bit more aggressive. So during this phase, I was just trying to stay with him as much as I could with short shifting. You can see we're purple through that sector. I was reasonably happy with this car through the first sector. I think I would have liked to, I really wish I would have gone back and done another race in this car later on and really tried to push this car a bit more, because it would have been interesting to see how close it was to the NSX in race conditions. I'm not too sure whether it's got as good fuel saving abilities or not as good. So it really would be, I might do that in a future video, is compare the fuel saving abilities of each GR.2 car, because they're not cars that save a massive amount of fuel, but, you know, saving a little bit is always going to be a good thing in the pits, because, you know, short shifting and stuff. So what I might try and do in a future video is rev every car to pretty much the end of the rev limiter and do like 7 laps and see what fuel they're on. Then we'll do a test of lap, you know, doing the lap time test for them runs, and then doing it halfway for each car, comparing the lap times and seeing how much fuel they have in, you know, after them 9 laps or something, or 5 laps or something, just to see which car is probably the best in terms of its fuel economy while maintaining speed. So that'll be an interesting video I think I could do in terms of what car might be best picked for race conditions, because at the moment I tend to pick the NSX. I think the NSX for me is a better car for races. I feel like it suits my driving style. The Lexus I really enjoy driving, although it seems to be lacking a bit of cornering speed. It doesn't seem to be able to carry the speed that the NSX can carry through the corners. So that's one thing that I think, you know, it's already got a lot of straight line speed, but that's why I think the NSX maybe needs just a 1% weight increase, and then just either take a bit of weight off this Nissan, or add it, give it a bit of power, and I think all the cars will be really close then. As you can see now, we're coming up to the start of lap 14. He's starting to pull away a bit now, but you can see the gap behind, he's not really gaining on us. He's staying around 2.6, 2.7 seconds behind as we go over line on a 1 minute 1.740, which is our best lap of the race, but it's by no means an amazingly fast lap. You can see the leader's done a 1 minute 1.317, his fastest lap at this point in the race. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you the difference between, you know, that's the fastest lap in this race, and then watch the difference by the end of the night when, see, we're all up to speed. the difference in my fastest lap time compared to that. You know, it really does show you the difference in terms of just practicing and what practicing does. You know, practice makes perfect. It will make you faster, it will make you more consistent, and not only will it make you more consistent, when you're more consistent you feel safer in pushing harder and you feel like you won't make the mistakes as easily. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump through to the start of the final lap. As you can see there, we had really solidly kept our consistency. You can see the laps were not really very fast, they were just low 202s. We had a couple of 1 minute 1 laps in there, and we're starting the final lap now. We've managed to stay reasonably close to the guy in front. He's not managed to increase the lead massively, considering he's probably been able to push a lot harder with how he ran the fuel strategy, and the guy behind has only really, he's lost a bit of time. He's not really gained anything on us. He's actually over 4 seconds behind now, so we actually managed to pull away from that guy. So we've got a solid P2 on by the looks of things at this point. And you know, final lap, just trying to keep it cool, making sure I get to the end of the race. We've not had any SR incidents in this race. We've kept it 100% clean, so you know, we're not going to have any you know, knocking down of the SR, and the DR is going to probably go up after this race. I think it went up by about 600 points in my first race of the day, so it's really important just to get a nice solid result in that first race of the day and not push too hard. You know, there's no, I know everyone wants to win the race on their first race and they want to get that victory, but sometimes it's best just to play it safe in your first race and get the consistency, and then you obviously push harder in your later races. So we're going to have a little look at the finishing time. So the leader goes over the race, finishing in 19 minutes and 2 seconds. We're 2 seconds behind, so we finish in 19 minutes and 4 seconds. So what we're now going to do is we're going to run through to our last race of the day, obviously once we're fully up to speed, and this time we're going to be driving the Honda NSX Group 2 car, as I stated earlier in the video. We decided to start using that to feel like more qualifying potential, and obviously I feel like I can push a bit harder in the race while still maintaining a bit of fuel consumption. So starting P1, we got our lap down to 0.3, 1 minute 0.3. So we still, I think we have potential to get a 59 second on this track. I just couldn't hook up the lap together, and I just gave up on it at that time because it was getting me P1 pretty much in the last 4 or 5 races that I did. So we had won the previous 2 races before this, but for this race straight away what I wanted to do was get rid of the slipstream. The slipstream is very strong on this track, obviously with that long straight, and it's really important to try and break that slipstream straight away. So you can see aggressively through turn 1, and you can straight away see the difference in that top right hand corner to the way the car is behaving. You'll see the way I'm attacking the corners, I'm carrying more speed. You can visually see the speed difference that I'm carrying through the corner and how much more track I'm using. I'm using the curb on the exits, I'm using, you know, curbs on entries, I'm getting closer to the walls on all the corners. Just look at the way we're now getting right up that curb on that corner there. This car was really able to really get into the braking and really trail brake into that corner really well, and you could gain a bit of time. You can see we've managed to get the lead to about 6/10 of a second. However, he's in our slipstream now, so he's going to start gaining. So again, for this corner, we're going to try and push much closer to the wall. You can see that, and on the exit, just look at the difference compared to how we did that with the Nissan. It's a big difference, and we're actually 7/10 up, but again, he's in our slipstream, so we're going to try and move about on the track a bit just to make it a bit harder for him to gain on us while he's in that slipstream. And he doesn't gain too much, he's gained about a 10th even though that slipstream. So now we're going to push really hard on this lap to try and break the slipstream. So you're going to see really aggressive driving, using all the track, look, you know, pretty much coming up to the wall on the right hand side, and then for this corner really attacking it in 5th gear, not going down to 4th gear, or using the full width of the track on the right and then throwing it into this right hand corner and using all the track on the left hand side. Look at that, using every inch of that curb without going on the grass, and then going into this corner, braking just on the shadow there. As the shadow started, I braked, slammed on down into 2nd gear, try and keep it nice and tight in on the entry, on the power as early as we can, and then we can see going into this braking zone, we've nearly got him out of the slipstream. You see going through this corner I was fairly consistent at doing that corner well, and we've got the gap over a second pretty much now. It's up to 1 second, and I really flung it into that corner, pretty much nailed that corner perfectly, and he made an error trying to keep with us to stay in the slipstream, and he's fell back by 2 seconds. So it really does show you the importance of pushing hard. We were driving hard enough to make him overdrive himself, and he made an error, and we've got the gap up over 2 seconds now. Now we need to drive consistency, and look at that straight away. Our lap 2 at 1 minute 0.9. That is already about 5-6 tenths faster than what we managed in the Nissan in the previous race. So we're going to jump up to lap 9 now. You can see the consistency we kept, all 1 minute ones, bar lap 8, and this lap probably would have been a little bit worse as I started doing a bit of fuel conserving just to make sure that I could get to the lap 9 you know, without running out of fuel. I actually had a little bit more than I needed, but I wanted to make sure with having such a solid lead. We had like 5-6 second lead at this point. So you can see there, straight in the pits, we're going to fill up pretty much to the diamond, maybe a little bit extra, because obviously we want to make sure we can run a little bit harder in the end, and I've got a solid enough lead. So I think I might have filled this all the way up. Let's just have a little look as we see. Yeah, I went all the way because I had such a big lead. I give myself the option to fill it all the way up, and then we can drive a bit more aggressively. You still need to do a bit of fuel saving though, even with the full tank. We come out just ahead of someone who's not pitted there. I give it a little look and I noticed him in the rear mirror, so just to make sure I didn't block anyone. And then going through this corner again on the outlap, I wanted to drive reasonably aggressive, but I didn't want to push it too hard on the first 2 laps because I wanted to make sure I had a little bit of fuel for obviously going for another fast lap. I wanted to beat that lap, the lap 2 that we did. So you're going to see now on the outlap driving fairly smooth, not really driving too aggressively. I'm still trying to make sure I do a little bit of fuel saving. You can see there early upshift into 3rd gear, not revving it fully, trying to make sure that we do a little bit of fuel saving on this lap, and then I can drive a bit harder on some of the other laps. We've already got a big lead, and these guys who's pitting on this lap would have done a shorter pit stop because obviously they've saved a bit of fuel up to this point. You can see there they've gone to lap 10 and done the counter strategy that I was talking about earlier in the video, when they would then go really aggressive for the final 8 laps. As you can see there, we go over the line and we're still in P1, and let's just see how far back they are when they come out of the pits. We can see P2 is behind us there, and we've got about a 5-second lead from PG Motorsports, 5-6 second lead. So even with filling that tank all the way up and pitting on lap 9, we've still got that 6-second lead. So now we're just going to really push on this lap again, try and see if we can get a reasonably good lap in on these next 2 laps. This lap I don't think I went 100%, I think I just tried to get a consistent lap in first to get myself back in the rhythm. That's one pointer I would always give, is after you've done your pit stop, really important to get yourself back in the rhythm before you go really aggressive, because sometimes when you come out of the pit straight away you can make that mistake where you're not really concentrating, you're out of sync with the race. You've been sat in the pits for 10-15 seconds, you kind of daydream a bit, and I just find that on your next out lap and your first flying lap, just take it a little bit easier. Don't go too aggressive, or you could risk losing a lot of time. So you can see there we're going over line. I expect this to be a 1 minute 1 or something like that as we go over the line. 1 minute 1.4. So now for this lap I really wanted to push really hard and try and beat our lap 2, the 1 minute 0.9 I think it was. So I wanted to try and beat that lap. I hadn't seen anyone beat a 0.9. One person got in the 1 minute 0.9 I'd seen in a previous race. So I wanted to get a little bit faster to see if I could really push myself, as I really started to feel like I was in the rhythm of the track. You can see it in the way I'm driving, you can see it in that replay camera. The way the car's moving about is a lot more aggressive, and we're really pushing hard for this lap. I decided to use a bit more revs and then obviously do a bit more saving towards the end of the race. As you can see now, we're driving aggressively, using the full width of the track on entry and the exits of the corners, getting on the power really early. You can see the aggression on the car, the way it's losing a bit of rear traction, where I'm really trying to get on the power early. Going through that final corner, we get on the power reasonably early. We took a lot of speed through that corner, but we didn't quite get as good an exit as we did when we did our 0.9. And we're going to go over the line now and see what this lap time is going to be as we come to the final bit of stretch. And let's just have a little look. It's a 1 minute 0.8. So I was really happy with that lap. It's the fastest lap of the race, and that's all I wanted to do. And then we could go back into the calmer, smoother driving, and obviously doing a bit of fuel saving for the final laps, as I didn't feel like anyone would beat that throughout the race. So you can see coming to the end of our run now, lap 18. We've kept the laps reasonably consistent, pretty much all 1 minute 1s. I think at lap 18 will be a bit slower, where we're probably doing a bit of fuel conserving, as you can see there. Go over the line, a nice safe lap on the last lap to make sure we don't make any mistakes. And look at the difference in the time, 18 minutes 53 seconds. That's a full 11 seconds faster than what we finished in the Nissan, and a full pretty much 9 seconds faster than what the lead finished in that race. So it shows you the difference that a few races can make in terms of your race pace and consistency. And I just wanted to put this video out there just to show the difference, when it's time to push compared to when it's time to be safe and get a solid result. So hopefully that can help some of you guys decide when give yourself a bit of time to make that decision before you start pushing really hard, and you will find your DR increasing. I went down to, I think it was 44,000 DR after we lost to 26,000 or something like that. We were pretty much nearly on 70,000, and we've got our way back in about 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks. We're back up to 63,000 now, I think it is. So we're working our way back up to that 70,000. So you know, it really does make a difference. Just trying to really be careful with your first races and trying to keep that consistency. Anyway guys, thanks again for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. We upload every single day on GT Sport, and we also upload every now and then on Assetto Corsa and Project Cars 2. So thanks again for watching everyone. We'll be back very soon.